Hey YouTube, welcome in. It's Bebop here, and today's video is going to be about the Flail. Now, is the Flail good for tanking? Absolutely. You can use the Flail in many situations. I prefer it in some dungeons, but you mostly will see me running greatsword tanking now that the grit's changed to you have to be doing heavies to gain grit at the 300 con mark. It used to be sword and shield all the time, but now since my baby, the greatsword's back, baby, hey, you'll see me doing that a lot. Now on bosses, I usually always will take a Flail in there and go sword and shield. Flail for the bludgeon, the extra fortify for the teammates, and the extra empowerment. So that's really where I end off with the Flail. Tanking with it, you will see the problems. What are you going to do here with the Flail? Okay, now that the grit has changed, are you going to heavy? Well, your damage with the heavies not much better than it is with the light. Are you going to put trenchant strikes on the Flail, or are you going to use the powerhouse that has enchanted so your light and heavy attacks do more damage? But now your abilities don't do any more damage because enchanted does not work on your abilities. So I made this set here, and I'll show you the set and the skill trees at the very end. And I am going fast on this video because it is a long dungeon and you don't need to see us tiptoeing around. A lot of these guys were all new players, I'm guessing, randomly signed up for an M1, and you can tell just by the way everything was going, they look brand new, which is fine. So I don't want to take too long on the video and show you an hour-long video, okay? Where the Flail shines is at mobs and holding aggro on mobs. Where it doesn't shine is single target bosses. But on mobs, it's really good to constantly have your taunts. So crowded bludgeon is a perk you can put on the weapon or on your clothing, and it will help reduce your cooldown by quite a bit. And that's the far left or far right ability, the F key, bludgeon. The vortex in the middle, R, is really good for debuffing as far as getting your teammates unrooted, hitting a big group of enemies like what you just saw right there, all those crawlers, just boom, instantly get aggro on them. And then you have smite right there, what I just used on Urzet or Uzret or whatever his name is. You know, if you know anything about me, I just mess up names. All right, baby, that's what we do here. But the smite will give you 30% fortify if you're in a heavy load. Not sure about the medium load, but this is a medium build because this is just basically for tanking M1s and M2s. Don't need a heavy build for that. And so the kite shield is interesting. There's a lot of really good perks you can get with the kite shield if you're interested. Now, also the elemental band pants that you get from the Gorgon raid will help you do 20% more damage when you're in a medium load. So that will help with the arcane, and with all arcane harnessing, it helps out with some of the damage. Now, will it be enough to really hold aggro against people that put out a lot of damage? No, absolutely not. Now, you can go with arcane ring damage if you want to, a ring with arcane damage, I should say, or you can go with a ring with strike damage because your light and heavy attacks are strike. Now, your abilities, some of them are a mixture of strike and arcane. So I had a strike ring. The arcane ones were way too expensive. I wasn't going to buy it for just this run. So I went with a strike, hardy, and I guess purifying heart ring. And this is what I love the most about the Flail. Hit the enemies with the vortex and zoom, I'm off, baby. And get that nice haste. Now, if you have alacrity on your amulet, then you will extend that haste by quite a bit, a few seconds. So that's really nice. Now, one thing that's also good about the Flail is a lot of the abilities, if not all of them, are grit attacks. So you can grit through a lot of the enemies' attacks. But where you're going to suffer is trying to get your cooldowns with the light attacks. You're going to get pushed around, as you see me getting pushed around, let alone the explosions from the fire mutations. So for me, tanking is all about heavy attacks now. It's just not about light anymore, or light attacks, I should say, not light equip low, but light attacks. So that's why the greatsword or a Flail with trenchant strikes really is the only way I'd run a Flail, is probably trenchant strikes. Now, that probably sounds stupid. Maybe it is stupid. I don't know. But for me, if I'm only going to be heavy attacking, at least the Flail will do some damage, a little bit of damage, with trenchant strikes, which will give you 22% more damage per heavy attack. So, as you see as you will see on certain bosses that we fight here, I will lose aggro. And that's because the Flail is just really weak. Really weak. It looks cool. It's the newest weapon, but I'm just never sold on it for main tanking. Now, if you want to use it on a boss for bludgeon, for the empowerment to your teammates and fortify to help protect them on final bosses like I need, Glacial Tarn bosses, things like that, or even this guy, fine. But Sword and Shield on bosses, still 100% the best, not even close. Don't use anything else. And then Great Sword for the main dungeon, I feel, is the only way to go. Unfortunately, that cuts out SNS. I know a lot of people have been leaving comments in the video saying, you know, I'm getting pushed around a lot with SNS. What should I do? And I just go Great Sword. Go Great Sword, or learn to just do heavies with the sword. You can put Trenchant Strikes on the sword. Now, that sounds ridiculous, I know, but you got to remember, grit changes are making things a little bit weird for PvE tanks. The third attack that you do with the Sword and Shield now is a lot longer than what it used to be. It used to be get your 3 light attacks in, apply your 15% rend for 2 seconds, and then go back to doing it again. Now, on that third hit of the light attack chain for Sword and Shield, you do an extra spin, and then it takes longer to get your block up. Well, with the rate of, you know, how fast the enemies are attacking now, and you're getting staggered, good luck ever getting to that third one. And then when you do, you're definitely getting staggered because you can't get your block up in time to come out of that, you know, double spin that they added that no one requested. I don't know why they did that. AGS, baby. Woo! But getting back to Tempest and the Flail, right here, you want to always bring the Spriggan right here to this spot if you're a tank. Your back's up against the wall. You could get pushed over the stairs. You just got to readjust yourself. No big deal. But this is going to be the easiest spot for DPS to DPS. It's the least amount of movement that he's going to have is right there. And it's really close to the stairs, so you can get going right after that. So this dungeon is really, really long. It's the longest dungeon in the game. I believe they probably give you an hour to finish. Oh, little quick tip. If you do Vortex going through there when your teammates are coming up and not just yourself, Bebop, then you can get everybody through the portal a lot faster. If you have a Purifying Toast earring, you can run it in Tempest also. And when you go through the portal, drink a regen pot and you will get through it faster. Now the Vortex is a lot better because you don't have to waste, you know, a regen pot, which is probably like 5 to 10 gold, and unless you're speed running, it's not a big deal. So just a little tip. Now these mages, it's really good to have a great axe in the group, and like I said in my other video, there's just never a great axe in M1 and M2. It's just I feel like it's not even allowed or something. I don't know. None of the DPS bring it in, man. It is insane. So the grouping is kind of up to you. That's another reason why I like the Great Sword. Even though the grouping with the Rupture was nerfed, it still will work pretty good at times. So then you can group up the mobs on your own. I have this set just for tanking these M1 and M2, so it's not that big of a deal. Even if mobs go astray, we'll get them. They're easy to kill, quick to kill. And I lost aggro here, and I have an infused corrupted coating on, and it's only an M1. So that's the Flail for you. That's the problem with the Flail, gents. Any tank that uses a Flail, they will lose aggro onto single target mobs like this. It happens, especially if you're running with DPS that are pumping. So I might sound down on the Flail. I think it's really good for situations, not for fully tanking dungeons. Now, I could be completely wrong. I've been wrong before. So it's up to you to, any information you get, go use it, see what you think, try it out for yourself. And if you disagree, that's perfectly fine. Nobody on YouTube or anything has all the correct answers. Things are constantly changing. You know, some of us get mistaken on things. So I'm not trying to say don't use the Flail at all when tanking in dungeons, but it's up to you if you want to. The abilities look cool, the movement's great and all that. So at the end of the day, it's a video game. Have fun, play how you want. You paid your own money for it. Do what you want. But when it comes to M3s, don't do what you want. You got to do what's best for a team, or else it's just going to go bad. And even when you do what's best for teams, sometimes it still goes bad. They're very difficult. If you haven't gotten into those, please take that challenge upon yourself. Learn how to, you know, get better and good enough to get up there. Almost got killed right here, B. I was trying to hold aggro. I know the Flail doesn't hold aggro much, so I had to do some damage and expose myself and get out of Sacred there and chase the boss down, because you'll lose aggro just like that. Boom. I just not a Flail fan, guys. Now, if it's a big boss like the Glacial Tarn first or second boss, you know, I feel like it's a little bit easier to hold aggro sometimes. This one moves a lot. So with the increased movement bosses and the lack of damage, there is a potential for loss of aggro. So a lot of times early tanks, you got to stay aggressive and go toward the boss and try to do as much damage as you can and just hope for the best. Right here, I'm doing all the damage I can with all the arcane harnessing on every piece but my pants. I have my strike ring in. I am doing damage and still lost aggro somehow. When you get to this part of the Tempest dungeon, always tank this guy right here in the middle. Send one guy up top, one DPS up top to deal with the archer. Have the other 2 DPS kill the archer that's immediately on the right side of the screen when you come in. And that way you don't sit here at the exit waiting to get going. Now this enemy, I would always say take out. If people went down at the guy previously, let's say you're on an M2 and people went down, you don't want them to shrine. That shrine is far back there. Just pull this guy up to the shrine that's 20 feet away. That way you don't risk anybody getting shrined real far back and even taking longer than needed. This dungeon's about cutting time. The path I'm showing you, the strat I'm showing you is the best way to run this dungeon. Really should be the only way. Yeah, we skipped the name back down there, but you were going to get trash loot anyways. This is better to save time, and you would enjoy the dungeon a lot better when you can cut a lot of it out. There's some additional ways to do that, but I'm just going to keep it simple and show you this way. Now, I will lose aggro again on this boss. Just getting staggered, trying to hit my ability. She's moving a lot. A rupture. And then boom, loss of aggro, and it's going to get a DPS down. I am hitting away. I don't know if they're using regenerating earring or what's going on here, or despised earring and they just don't know it because he looked like he was in a tank build. So not really sure if it's all the flail. It might be something he's wearing. Let's keep that into consideration. But when I did get the aggro and stayed on it, I never saw a switch back. If he had a despised earring on, something like that, then I would believe, like right now, that it would switch back at some point. So it's either the flail or maybe he's wearing something, but I would think it's just a flail. That's what the flail is. That's why you want to go in there with your sword and shield, get your shield rush in, which magnifies your threat and your taunt. And that way you're guaranteed to hold aggro with the sword and shield. Now, I was in a Genesis run a couple months ago. And this guy was in there, and he's a PvP player. And we were going to go ahead and do the first boss in Genesis, which, if you know anything, is the biggest gatekeep boss in the game. Well, he was a flail tank, and I was telling him he needs to go sword and shield on the boss. And he was like, well, I'm constantly empowering everybody, blah, 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 with the flail, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, he ended up losing aggro every time. And we fought that boss 6 times. He lost aggro every time, constantly. And he was swinging away doing damage. Like, he was trying his hardest, and he couldn't understand it. And I said, watch, switch to sword and shield, have your shield rush on, and then we'll go. We got through that boss the exact next run. And he just like, well, I don't get it. Why is it different? Blah, blah, blah. Well, because you weren't losing aggro, we can actually DPS. The flail, that's just what it suffers from, guys. I'm just going to say it. Now, maybe you go lower con and, you know, you go higher strength and you're doing hella damage. You take food and you're going to do more damage. Now, to me, I'm not taking, I think it was the first time I've taken an infused coating in a M1, like ever. So there's a reason why I did that, and that's because it's the flail. You might take your food and all that stuff when you go into an M1 and M2, but with that 15 damage buff that you get, I mean, I don't really feel like you need to waste all that. So even with the infused coating. Oh, this guy dropped the light. Don't drop the light here. You got to turn this in, ding dongs. There you go. Now, you don't have to go touch that shrine. You just cut the corner. You automatically get registered at the shrine. It's fine. You're not going to miss it. And then when you come up to this guy, look at the name of the enemy and look right below his name. It is a named enemy, and you know he's going to proc fire on the ground. So if you shoot the enemy before you get there, usually the healer will, then the fire can be procced away, so you're not taking additional burn while you're in melee. And that's the easiest way to get that done. Now, it's an M1, so who cares? Just get through it. I like to use my vortex at the end of the fight to get the haste, and now I'm on my way. Because as you know, as a tank, you do not want teammates creeping up right next to you while you're trying to aggro. Or trying to get to your next point, because then they will catch aggro and then blame you for not having aggro. In this room, you need to go ahead and DPS only worry about the guys waving the wands, the mages. All the mobs I will take and hold as a tank, but they kept doing damage, so it's like, well, I guess I'm gonna stay here and at least try to take them out with them. Then I always look to see if I have aggro on the acolytes or if I've lost it. I didn't hit them on the way up, so I knew I'd probably lose it. Now they were hitting the mobs, don't need to do that, need to hit the priest. And once you're done making your rounds, you end off, the portal will open and you go through. You fight one named enemy before you go to the first boss. So make sure you kill him, get your loot, because he does drop bags, and sometimes it's good loot. It's really good to have stamina damage on this guy. If you do want to skip this guy, Eyes Pylon down can go ahead and distract him while everybody runs around. But I switched to the greatsword here because the flail is just not it on this guy, and I'm gonna do stamina damage as much as I can. But being an M1, his health's really gonna go down. Well, we'll be able to knock him here. Usually his health will go down before you even get this stam, but with the greatsword does really good stamina damage. So hey, let's get that dude down, stop him from swinging. And also with the greatsword, you can use rupture when you go through this, and you will also be through the portal faster. All right, the first boss here does strike damage. Also, the arrows he shoots and the AoE effects he does are void damage. Watch out for the tail whips. Learn his mechanics. This boss fight's really simple. It is just mechanics that you got to watch out for. Now, you'll probably go in there, die a bunch of times at first. It is what it is. But this boss fight is super simple. Once you get the hang of it, shouldn't have any problem. You just got to learn to dodge. With the strike amulet, if you put that in, you'll be able to at least survive one hit from the tail whip. And usually, you know, speedrunners would make a void set for this boss fight, but that's just going up and beyond. Obviously, in M1 and M2, doesn't matter. You can just come in here with the opal set, like I showed on videos before, and just change out your amulet, and you'll be good to go. You gotta get out of the circle. Now, I don't see anybody in this group with a enfeebling spear or a spear that's doing much damage, so just know that going in there, tanks, you're probably gonna be taking more damage than what you're used to. It is what it is. You can take a war pot if you want. Don't feel ashamed just because it's M1 and M2. You're learning. Everybody else is learning, and most people don't even know what an enfeebling skewer is or what it does and how good it is. So, anyways, we get through this boss fight, and then we're on to Isabella. Now, I skipped ahead here, but for Isabella, she comes down, has a long intro, and you will basically be taking a lot of thrust damage, and she also does slash damage. You're gonna have to really be careful about the slash damage here, tanks, because the wing slashes she does will take a lot of health. She also does void damage with the slow that she'll inflict on people. Also the dash, I believe, is void. Not sure that when she's flying through the air. All right, let her get hit, baby. But yeah, so you want to stay on the back of her. This is a dodging test, okay? She's constantly moving back. Tanks, if you're constantly pushing forward, you're going to put DPS in a bad situation. If you're 500,000 con like this DPS right here, then it doesn't matter. You just go right beside the tank, and who gives a shit, you know? Just go ahead and take all the damage, because it doesn't matter. You got 5,000 con. You're good to go. Everybody else will kill her. You'll be alive, though. Now, also back up to this point, when you're in here, tank, so you give the DPS enough room. A lot of times tanks will be too far up and they don't give the DPS a little room for activities. That's not good. You'll get people killed that way. It's not just a DPS fault sometimes if they go down. Your positioning, your pressing, everything else will come into play. If I'm stuck over here in the corner, which a lot of tanks like to do, like right now, if I followed her over there and we were stuck in that corner, oh, my DPS would be just, now if they're ranged, it wouldn't matter, but they would get less critical shots, I guess. But if you're melee, then they're going to be sitting there like, I can't melee because you're in the way. Also, these portals, you need to take them down. DPS, that's your job, not the tank's job. Take these portals down. Make sure she's on the ground when you're taking these down. If she's up in the air, she'll just fly right back down and spawn another portal. But if you don't take those down and she puts up 3, everybody's going to be dead. So you can base it off how much damage you have. If you know you're going to kill the boss before she puts down the 3rd, oh, okay, cool. Don't even worry about them. This situation, I'm worried about it. All right. we're getting rid of these portals. Now, I wish I got shards from these portals. Boy, I'd be running this dungeon all the time, bro. Corrupted lodestone, anybody? But that's basically Tempest in a nutshell with the Flail. As you can see, I went to Greatsword here. I was about tired of it. I couldn't deal with it. I knew we needed damage, and they weren't going to be the ones doing it because Isabella's a hard fight. And I figured most would probably die. And I almost end up getting clapped here myself. So All right, here's what I'm running with the Flail and Hammer combo that you just saw. It's a medium build. I have a kite shield on. Headpiece, Arcane, Harnessing, Enchanted Ward, Threats Conditioning, Enchanted Ward, Arcane, Refreshing, Enchanted Ward, Arcane, Strike Conditioning, Attune Leather Pants. And then we have Arcane, Enchanted Ward, and Health. And we have the Kite Shield with Enchanted Ward, Healing Defense, Refreshing Defense, and Crowded Bludgeon. Then we have the Power Stone. And it's not all the way upgraded, but it has Refreshing Move. And we weaken enemies as long as we're above 90% health. Refreshing Move, Sundering Clear Out, and Keen. And then we have Fortify, Flame, and Health. Then we have Strike Damage, Poisoning, Hardy, and a Despised Earring with Nimble and Duplicating Toast, which is really good. That way if you take a coating or whatnot, it has a chance of not being used. That is my Flail setup. You can feel free to choose whatever perks you want. By no means is that perfect. The Greatsword and then the Hammer. All right, well, I hope y'all enjoyed the video. I'll see y'all in the next one. If you have any ideas, leave them in the comments. Later.